It just takes a minute.
No problem.
Okay, we are live.
Okay, shoot. Okay, Town of Southborough meeting of the Library Board of Trustees, June 5th, 2020, 4:09 p.m. via remote participation. Agenda pursuant to Governor Baker's March 12, 2020 order suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, GLC 30, section 18, and the governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitation on the number of people that may gather in one place. This meeting of the Southborough Library Board of Trustees will be conducted via remote participation to the greatest extent possible. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by the members of the public and or parties with a right and or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the Town of Southborough's website at https://southboroughtown.com. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to listen to the meeting may do so in the following manner: https://southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. No in-person attendance of members of the public will be permitted. Well, that's not quite right, is it? But every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will put on Southborough's website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. All right, we've now come to order. We need to do a roll call for our attendance. Landry, present.
Yes, Donnie, present.
Regan, present.
Thacker's present.
Davis, present.
And we also have, oh, Janet, sorry.
You're
muted.
Pete sakes. Janet Maney, present.
Okay, thank you. All right, and we also have present virtually Mary Bulso. And we have David Eckberg and Tim Litt, correct?
And Kim Ivers is also in the attendees.
Oh, okay, I can't see that. Hi, Kim. All right. So we're all here. All right, a review and approval of the minutes for the April 29th meeting. Anybody have any corrections or additions?
No.
Okay, all those in favor of accepting as written, Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, aye.
Regan, aye.
Thacker's aye.
Maney, aye.
Davis, aye.
Okay, so that passes unanimously. And now we're up to reports and discussions, which I'll turn over to Ryan. The first one is the library facade restoration project.
So I'd like to, even though it's turned it over to me, I'd like to turn it over to Mary Bulso, who's our operating project manager, just to give a quick update on where we're at with the project so far.
Okay, hello everybody. So right now the architect is finalizing the drawings. They've been out to the site a couple times to confirm conditions. We did some investigation of the main front stairs and how they're put together. We got down under those, looked at the walkway. We had the paint tested, the caulking tested. The caulking is asbestos, so we will work that into the documents to have the removal done by the contractor. And we're looking to get out to bid. Originally, we weren't going to go out to bid till late August because we figured that size project would be more, would have a better appetite for bids in late August when all the school work is done. But now, then we said, well, everything's closed. Boston contractors are calling us looking for outside work. Now the contractors are working again. So I'm meeting with the architect next week to discuss the best bid schedule. We are seeing an active bid climate as far as more aggressive than we have seen in the last couple of years. So we're hoping to see some better pricing on the street because it is outside work, it's desirable work. And a lot of capital projects have gone on hold. Many towns have taken them right off their town warrants this year and waiting to see what's going to happen with state funding. Any questions?
Mary, is there any worry that somebody would take the job and then if a school or some other more desirable thing says, oh, no, we're ready for your work now, that they would stop part way? Is that allowed to happen, or would they have to complete a job that they took from us first before going back to something else?
So the public project will have requirements for scheduled completion dates. So they'll work that into their budget. In this size project, you're not gonna get as many of the larger roofing contractors that just do schools anyways. These are more the summer slammer school people, you know. And we have had, we have experience with a lot of good mason and roof and historic people. Lynn, the architect is the architect of St. Mark's for the last 20 years or so. They're actively working over there, and of course, they're interested in staying there and just coming next door.
Right.
So that's helpful.
Great.
Okay, any other questions?
No, thank you, though.
Yeah, thanks, Mary.
No
We'll
problem.
see, we'll see you. When is your next report going to come in to us? Next meeting or when?
I can do whatever you want. As soon as we get preliminary drawings from the architect, I think that would be a good time to show you what we have, let you review them.
All right, so
Go
sometime
through
this
it- go
summer.
through it with you. Yeah, maybe even by the end of this month, I would say.
Oh,
We'll get you
great,
something to look at.
great. Thank you. Thank you for the timeline. Okay.
Sorry,
I
I
Mary,
can check in with, Mary prior to our next scheduled meeting and see if there's an update and if she's available to come to the meeting.
Great.
So
Great, thank you so much.
Mary, I had one more quick question, Marguerite, if you don't mind.
No,
Just
no
a
problem.
random thought. Was the asbestos in the caulking a surprise find, or was that anticipated? And does that?
No, we anticipated it because of the age of the building, and that's why we tested it.
Okay. Thank you.
Seems asbestos was very popular during a certain period. You find it everywhere.
It's a very good material, it lasts forever, and you know,
Yep.
it's not that big of a deal breaker to get rid of it. It's you're better off knowing and identifying it early rather than get a change order.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? Nope, we're good. Thank you, Mary. We'll see you soon.
All right, thank you.
Ciao, ciao. Okay, thanks. Okay,
So Ryan, you all set with me?
yep, that was
it was
was it.
perfect.
Okay, all right, because I'm gonna go back to work. All
All
right,
right, bye, Mary.
thank you. Bye.
All right, good. All right, director's report. Ryan.
So if it's all right with all of you, I think I'd like to discuss some of the financial stuff that's coming up. So even though library copier machine is down the agenda a little bit, I think because it ends up being sort of part of the financial discussion, we might talk about that in advance. The big news, as I'm sure you guys know, is that there was a sign on the property that got significantly damaged. So I did come on site on that Saturday and take some pictures. So I forwarded those to the police department. Detective Keith Nichols worked on a police report, and I worked with Lori Esposito on filing an insurance claim with the town's insurer, Maya. So MIIA. We found out that the sign is not covered under the town's insurance. So the replacement cost for the sign will be around $4,500.
What happened, Ryan? Do you know?
Yes, we
So-
do.
So it was indeterminate from the police report. There were a number of construction vehicles that were paving a section of the library that day. We have gotten in touch with DPW, who has coordinated with Mass DOT to try to see if anybody reported anything, but unfortunately, no. So we don't know. I just know that there were a lot of construction vehicles parked there that day that were on this side of the property, but Nobody is
Fencing.
nobody claimed responsibility. Let me put it like that.
So
Nobody
this,
did it. Right.
this expense is gonna come straight out of our budget? Is that right?
So that it, this is sort of the question for us to decide. There's a couple options here. I talked to John about whether or not the sign can be repaired. He can attempt to repair it. His plan would be to try to put a steel rod through it, use adhesive to try to glue it back together, and then to try to paint over that. He noted that, first of all, it would still look broken, I think, even
Oh.
if that were to occur. And then that it's also not a permanent solution, that the adhesive would probably break down over time. So it would be okay for a little while, but not really forever. So that's option A. Option B would be not to replace it at all, which is a discussion you can have. I think option C is probably the preferable one, which is to look at replacing it. So how to pay for a replacement really comes down to where you would like to direct me to take the money out of. We do have about a little less than $50,000 currently in state aid. The reason why I talked about moving the copy machine item ahead is because I know in February we said the copy machine had been repaired and it looked like we were all good. We found out that the contract for the copy machine expired in 2011. So it's no longer under contract. So we are going to have to actually cease our business relationship with Rico. It turns out it's been ceased for almost 9 years. And then, we're interested in working with Tom LaFlamme on, starting a relationship with Xerox, which is what the town is, we're sort of using town-wide for copier services. But the expense of the machine would, if we want to do one right now, has to come out of some sort of library fund. So we do have state aid available for that. So I was hoping just to talk to you about paying for a copy machine out of state aid. Now we have to have a discussion about a replacement sign as well.
Let's take the copier first,
Okay.
because that is, I mean, apparently Kim and Ryan needed to print out on printers the booklets for the summer reading program. And there were 100 booklets, and it was quite a waste of resources to use printers to do that, but there was no functioning copier. So yes, we do need it, and I think. And the question is, how do we want to proceed on that?
Kim definitely needs a copy machine to be able to utilize in order to print the summer reading packets. Starting on June 22nd, as part of the curbside effort, we'd really like to make physical summer reading packets available outside the library. So we have used our printers because we did have a couple extra ink cartridges to utilize for that purpose. But in particular, if we want to do things in color, a lot of the initial packages for summer reading are going to be in black and white, which I think was not really what was preferable for Kim. I think, with the kids, she wanted to use color, which I think makes sense. And then again, I don't even know what, I think Tom is going to need a couple weeks to work with the vendor to try to get the new copy machine here. We also have to coordinate pickup of the older machine as well. So, the benefit of this is, even though we'll be doing curbside, I do have time, and we've kind of planned out how to do this. That really what it comes down to is just how to pay for it, I think. And I again, we could have talk to the town about putting this as a capital request, but usually that puts us down the line, and it takes several years in order to achieve that. This is a need for the library now, and I think that it's an appropriate use of state aid for us to take the money out of there for purchase of a new copy machine.
I don't think there's any question but that we need a new copy machine. And as I recall, we had looked at a couple of different options, and it sounds like this is the one you're most comfortable going with. based on the town's, relationship with Xerox or whatever. Is the plan to do the purchase price, a little over 10 grand? There's no benefit to outright purchasing it over leasing it in terms of the actual cost after the 3 years. Does the town typically lease them or buy them, or what's the benefit either way? And how does that function with state aid? What's your recommendation, Ryan, on that?
I mean, I don't think it's a good idea to lease it. I think the cost over time becomes much greater. So, typically, I mean, we kind of had access to a copy machine in a way that was more concrete. I'm worried about, I guess I'm just worried about the long-term costs that are associated with leasing a piece of equipment. I mean, the library is always going to need a copy machine, and then especially if we're using state aid, that's sort of a bucket of money that's available right now that can be utilized for this purchase. We don't know what again, I think that this is the type of environment right now where it's very hard to predict the future.
Right.
So I don't know what state aid is going to look like next year, to be direct. So
you recommend that we buy it using state aid, and this is the one you want, right?
yes.
I'm all in favor.
Me too.
Okay. So shall we just go quickly through everybody and they can either ask any questions and then we'll just put it to a vote?
Sure.
Okay, I have no questions and I'm in favor of using state aid.
I have no questions and I'm in favor of using state aid.
Same.
I have a question. So Ryan, for the maintenance pricing, it says it's for both the purchase and leasing. So that's $50 a month. Where are you recommending that come out of? Will that be coming out of state aid on an ongoing basis, or will that be rolled into like our office supplies line item?
Yeah, good eye, Kim. That's a good question. So I did ask Tom if it's possible to prepay maintenance costs. He does not think that's possible, that we would have to absorb it monthly because it is a monthly recurring expense. I believe we can appropriately absorb it into the office supply line item. So we would do the initial purchase of the machine out of state aid, but then we would do the regular maintenance costs out of the budget. If there is an overage, like we're spending too much on internal copies, we really don't have the month-to-month budget for that. So I might have to take, especially like with summer reading, right? We didn't know we were gonna have to pay for copies right now. So that sort of wasn't part of the plan. So Kim and I have talked about continuing to use the printers when appropriate, and then also utilizing the new copy machine once it becomes available. So I think the real thing here is finding a balance, so that we're not utilizing the copy machine too much, because we went from having no cost to the copy machine to now we have to sort of track that. So I think that's something that I'm very mindful of. Kim is attending this meeting, I think specifically so that she knows where we land with the copy machine. Because, it's something, again, that I think she needs in order to do her work over the summer.
Yeah.
So I hope that plan is okay with you. It ends up being $600. We have about 4,000 budgeted for office supplies. So it just means, so we have to be mindful of that cost, for an annual period.
Can you just walk me through like that cost? So if you were to do a big like copy project, like for summer reading or whatever, so where does that money go? Is it the cost for the paper and the printer? Does that go to Xerox? Like, can you just walk me through how that?
So the maintenance cost pays for like the replacement toner. We don't have to purchase that ourselves. Like before, the cost of the paper is on the library. So the paper cost would come out of the budget. That's normal. That's what we did before. But there is going to be a cost per public copy. So what we can't determine right now is if people are like paying for their own copies, that will help offset the cost of staff use of the machine. So I'm saying that, and clearly at the moment, with the building being closed, there is not going to be a patron usage. So I think that's why I'm a little bit mindful of us in the summer. The summer is the identified need. That's sort of why I'm advocating for a new copy machine. And then at the same time, we won't be generating the revenue offset. that will help with the copy machine ongoing costs. So, but once we come back, hopefully we'll have a shiny new copy machine, which is going to be a big hit with the public, and everybody's going to want to come here and make copies, and that will help us when we're doing things on the staff side.
So, sorry, what was your estimate for what you think the cost of staff use would be on a monthly basis? So it would be $50 for the maintenance and then some variable cost. Like, do you have a range for that?
I don't know, because I know in the summer it's going to be inflated versus other times. Kim and I talked about a long-term approach where we can also look at utilizing our printers, not just in the summer, but also potentially in the fall as well. And then, we're going to be putting a lot of our summer reading stuff online. So I think we're looking at having specified amounts of prints and copies that are available. Obviously, we can do more on-demand stuff, but that was something Kim looked at when we're doing the initial packets. We're capping the initial ones at 100. I think Kim and I both know that there's going to probably be more than 100 kids who sign up. Generally, we have a lot more in a typical summer. This isn't a typical summer. We don't know how many people will be comfortable coming to the library, how many people will be comfortable utilizing physical packets. So we're going to make the information available online. So all of this said, that's hopefully going to help offset the cost for us too. But since there's no data to look at prior, Tom does think, I had a discussion with Tom about this, Tom LaFlamme, and he thinks that eventually the offset of the patron use will help with what the library needs as far as
Now,
copy needs.
Ryan, can you just correct me if I'm wrong, but this computer is part of a computer system throughout the town, right? The townhouse Tom has fixed it up so that we have one, the townhouse has one, and youth and families and senior center, everybody has, he's maintaining all the copiers in that system, is that right?
Yes, I think you called it a computer when we started, but it's
Sorry,
the copy machine. You said it at the end of the copy machine, but that's interesting. It's networked, right? So I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes,
it's part of a it will also have the ability for the first time ever to scan and be able to scan our own documents. Typically, I was going to the townhouse and using a Xerox copy machine for that. So this is, we talked about this before. Having a newer copy machine is, I think, going to help. And that even might cut down on paper costs, to go back to Kim's point. If we can scan things and we can use sort of cloud-based, and I don't know. I mean, that's a good question.
They're a network.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Do we need to hear from Kim Ivers about it? Oh, I'm sorry, Kim, I cut you off. Go ahead.
I wanted to ask.
Kind of finish up. So thank you for answering those questions. And it sounds like, at least in the near term, when there isn't the public in offsetting the costs, that you seem comfortable that we can handle it out of the office supplies budget for any in-staff printing, and that you could manage it by using the printer and the copier, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Ryan?
I think we should move forward and purchase.
I have a question before we, well, anyway, I'm
There's also
sorry, Kim, I cut you off. What, did you have more to say?
No, I was
Kim?
just saying I would recommend purchasing and support that.
Okay,
Go ahead,
I have a question that's a little different, and it just the reading booklets for the summer. Since you need so many of them, did you look into having them just printed off site?
Yes.
The expense of that, would that be
Yes.
more, instead of the brand new copier being immediately used intensively?
Yes, and honestly,
being pressured to get it up and running by a certain date. If you just could take it to quick print and, have your box ready to go, is that in any way cost effective?
that's an option we still might consider. The Friends have offered to help with any sort of financial costs that are coming up. So if Kim finds that we have a need to do sort of bulk printing like that, I was really thinking Staples. It's not something Kim and I have discussed, but that's something where, if we have the option and we can get reimbursed for those costs by the Friends in the short term, while the copy machine is being set up,
Yeah.
seems like the
I
Friends.
just think it might take the pressure off all of this brand new machine and setting up. If you just had what you need for the summer reading already there. And then whatever glitches there are, you just, you deal with them apart from the whole summer reading thing. I don't know, just a thought.
Yep. So, and that's a good point, Jane. That is something that is definitely, I think, we're hopeful, you know, the Friends, the first meeting they could pull together was on the 16th, and then we're launching summer reading on the 22nd. So I think for week 1, we are really looking to do it as in-house, but then there's going to be 9 weeks worth of material that we're going to need printed long-term. And we're really setting up exactly what those printable items are now. Like Kim is attending, and I would say this even if she wasn't here, but Kim has done tremendous work, and Amy Townsley has helped. And I like to think in a limited way, I helped at least with some of the initial printing, but my role was pretty small. You know, Kim really put together what the challenges are going to be. She put together sort of a weekly scavenger hunt where if the kids are out in the community, they can do a lot of things. I mean, it's going to be similar to previous summer readings in the library. I think Kim had a concentrated effort in making it like that. But you know, I like that we're sort of, there's going to be packets, there's going to be materials week to week like we've done in the past. I think that's going to help with sort of our returning users to the program. And Kim has a lot of great ideas on promoting literacy too. And it's just, we have to get information out there. And that was, we're trying to find the best way to do that right now. So again, I mean, the packets, maybe 100 is enough. We don't know. We need to get started and then see what it's going to be like. So I think having that as the initial idea for week 1, and then we kind of have a plan if it gets more popular. And then I'm sure the Friends are willing to have a conversation about short-term needs if the copy machine is not available.
That's great. So where are we on this? Do we need to hear? I haven't heard from Janet, and I haven't heard from Amy Yazdani, and I haven't heard Amy.
I said good, yeah.
Okay, you're good. Yeah.
I have a couple more questions, Ryan, just about the maintenance thing. You said that toner would be covered. What else is covered in the maintenance pricing? Because I am sure those things are expensive. Is there an unlimited amount of stuff like that that it will be covered, or visits, or is it like a, you know, security thing you might have on your washing machine? It doesn't matter how many times you need the service person to come in. You're only paying $50. How many materials are included? I just feel like that's, and is that a guaranteed that $50 a month? Is that for just the first year, or is it for the life of the copier? Is it going to go up to 75 next year? Is there any breakdown of all that? Yes, I just feel like we could get quietly hosed if we're not careful with that one.
Those are questions that I can
That's
follow
a technical term, right?
I can follow up with Tom to answer those questions specifically. You know, my understanding that is if the machine breaks, a technician will come out and fix it, and that's included with the maintenance costs. You know, so we have noted to Tom that this primarily the copiers that are used in other town departments are for staff only. This is going to be sort of a hybrid, right? The staff and the public are using it. So there might be like additional usage on it that other town departments don't see. Tom doesn't think that's going to be a problem. When we had the conversation. So, and honestly, I don't think he's had any problems in the last year and a half that the town's worked with them on getting technicians to come out and fix things. I think typically it's even the same day in some cases. So,
right.
You know,
I'm not doubting that they'll come fix it. I just wonder what the cost is going to be. And are we limited to this particular thing? I just think it's something wise to look into. What if we have this copy machine for 10 years? Is it only going to be $50 maintenance per month for the first year, or is it going to be for all 10? And are they really, you know, they may come fix it, but they may say, yeah, I'll fix it, but the part costs $100. And my being here is what's covered, not the part. And right. I just think it's a good idea to look a little bit more deeply into that. I'm not against getting the copy machine at all. I think it's an absolute necessity, and this seems like a good one. It'll do all the things that you need it to do. So just a thought to look a little more closely there.
Those are good points, Amy. And I think Tom LaFlamme is our, what's the word I want? Our project manager on the copy machine. I think he's done a lot of due diligence, and this will be a basically a bulk sale for Xerox. So they have kind of an interest in maintaining the goodwill of, we have had copy machines in the past that were sort of, how shall I say, the maintenance was not all you could wish for. But I think Tom has done a fair amount of research on this, and I think he has some leverage to get the repair done accurately. Because I had the same thoughts. It's like, oh my God, but apparently Tom has done a lot of good homework on this. So I think we can take his word for it if he recommends that this is what we should do. And if there, anyway, so that my mind is at ease because I know Tom's in there with the heavy duty stuff. So there we
And
go.
I don't think there is a cost for any replacement parts. I believe that's covered under the maintenance contract. I would just like to say, I'd like to proceed with the purchase still, but I'm happy to follow up, Amy, and ask Tom your question. You know, I'm sure that the conversation about the copy machine between us and the IT director will be in, you know, we'll have to have ongoing conversations
Oh,
about
sure.
it, and especially in sort of tracking the usage in the first year. I think that that's important. That's something we're going to kind of have to monitor, because this was something we sort of didn't have to worry about, right? And now it's clearly something that I think I need to pay a lot more attention to.
Yeah. Janet, did you have,
No, I already said. I'm
okay,
good.
so are we ready to vote? All
Someone
right,
make a motion.
All right, so I do the first motion and you do the second, right?
I second it, right? Okay, go for it.
So I motion that we accept to purchase the copy machine
And
As-
take the funds from,
Out of state aid,
from the state aid. Is
right, at approximately $11,000.
that what it is, Ryan?
It's about 10,400, right? Was like 10,399. The quote was included in the trustee. report.
396, 10,396, yeah.
Thank you,
Thank
Jane.
you.
Good, okay, I second. All those in favor, let's do it. Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, I.
Davis, I.
Regan, I.
Backers, aye.
Maney, I.
Okay, the motion passes. Good, all right. Next thing is, are we gonna deal with the sign now, Ryan? Do you want to deal with the sign?
Sure.
All right.
I
Do we
have
wanna-
a
do we
comment.
want-
I have a comment, and I think it's outrageous that we have to pay for this when
Yes, you're not alone. But there
I
we-
just, you know, no kidding what happened to it. It's, all right, that's just my comment.
It was your daughter who noticed it first, I think.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
And then I called Ryan and he came over and took those, he sent the pictures out. It was
Mhm.
terrible. The pictures where it split, you've seen them.
I'm
Oh, you
just,
probably-
I think it is important for the record. There are, for outdoor property, Maya covers it in the following events. There's a list of 8
You
things.
just think it's funny, Ryan. I know you.
I don't honestly,
Oh, no,
I am
it's-
smiling. I don't find any of this funny.
Oh.
I
I
don't
think
find
it's
that the
funny.
sign broke being
What the-
funny.
Silly, yeah.
Yeah, there was, honestly, there was a lot of work this week on the week that I had to spend on the sign when we really are trying to get curbside and summer reading going. So not that the sign isn't important and isn't a piece of the library's visual architecture, but at the same time, you know, there's other things.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
other things going on,
It's
right?
still broken. It's not
Yeah.
gonna get anything, it's not gonna get fixed and it's dropped in priority. No, I just think it's too bad the library's being saddled with its replacement cost, but
Mhm.
So-
I feel the same way, Jane, but I don't know what else to do because you can see clearly on the sign where something hit it really hard in the raised oval, but
yeah, I know.
that's a lot of pressure and it looks like saloon doors. The Mark Pillsbury, who made the original one, who's also made the townhouse and the old police station sign, and he's done the one for Woodward and the one for Community House and the one for the transfer station. So he knows what he's doing with signs, and he put kind of a bracket on the top so it wasn't like the saloon doors anymore. But he said this will last for a while, but basically it's busted. So
Yeah,
here we are.
So I'm gonna
right.
go out on a limb here and say, I think we should not be so quick to replace it. right away. I think there's a lot of construction yet to be done in that area. I think it's not a bad thing for the town and people to drive by and see that it got smacked. And not, you know, and not, I don't mean that in just a nasty way, but these things do happen. And, you know, we'll come together and we'll replace it at some point. But unless there's a reason for us to dig into funds before the end of the fiscal year or something like that, I say we get it repaired as much as possible, and wait and see. You know, maybe we'll get lucky and some bulldozer driver will say, you know what, yeah, that was me, and his company's insurance covers that. This must happen more often than not. I don't see a rush to replace it. It's not like that whole area of town is up for a beautification thing anytime really soon. You know, so maybe we coordinate it with the reopening of Main Street and those sorts of things. If nothing comes of the police report and, you know, one of the construction companies fessing up, I mean, five grand for them isn't a big deal. It's a huge deal for us at the library. So I'd be patient. I'd keep the pressure on. I'd keep talking to the police and saying, you know, because who knows what else they might, you know, inadvertently knock into town. I'm not saying they're horrible people for having done that, maybe for not fessing up to it, but stuff like that's bound to happen. Maybe the town will have more than just this to go on, if anything additional comes into play. Just my thoughts on it.
I agree. And I mean, and in addition, it isn't all the things you said. It's the center of town is under construction, you know, things are in transition. It's not beautiful. People are avoiding it because of the traffic holdups. And what's more important is getting the curbside thing set up. So let's just have it, maybe let John try and fix it, but I'm in agreement with Amy. Let's let it wait. Let's put it off. And
I share the same sentiments as you both. You know, it's aesthetic, and at this point, like, there's more construction to come, and what's to say we don't fix it and it gets hit again. So it's definitely not something that we have to do immediately, especially since, you know, the library's not open. And like Jane said, curbside is a bigger priority. And Ryan, I'm not sure if the state aid number in the document is up to date, but looking at that, it looked like we were at 53,000 and change for state aid. So with the copier eating up about 19% of that, like, it just doesn't seem to make sense to me to spend over 8% of our state aid to fix the sign or to replace it, when, you know, if John can do a decent fix and that can get us through, you know, this construction and into a different time, when, if that's our biggest problem, great, we can deal with it then, but it's definitely not our biggest problem right now.
I do believe for the original purchase too, the Friends helped contribute at least some of the funding. You know, that is something I could follow up on. The possibility exists for us, you know, at some point in the future to look at a fundraising campaign for this so that the funds may not have to come out of state aid. You know, I know many of you are looking at sort of the year-end figures, and that's something I'm going to talk about next. There is money, there is going to be end up, like, we have a surplus in our materials money. We're not going to be able to spend everything at the end of the year because we ceased physical material purchasing in March. So I am going to ask you guys to do some electronic book purchasing. I'm definitely not going to use the remainder of the amount on that. So I mean, in the past, I think we have looked at doing remaining budget funds for items that the library needs. But I mean, I can understand your concerns about construction. You know, one of the maybe horrifying facts that I can echo is that this sign will never be insured. So a replacement that we purchase at any time will go out there. And then if it gets broken again, the cost will get put on us again. So, you know, that I don't think is a great fact in going into to deciding to expend that funds on something like that. But I can tell you a lot of the staff love that sign. That's what I've heard. They were very upset when it got cracked. And I know Marguerite helped really get that sign put in there, I think, in 2011,
Yeah.
and helped initiate that purchase, and talked with the old friends group about it. So I know that she loves it, and I don't think she's the only one. So I would just say, even if we don't replace it now, even if we looked at having John see what he can do to repair it, if the friends aren't interested, maybe to reevaluate this in a little while, look at Main Street being completed, and then having a conversation again. Because at that point, Kim, we might have more state aid money, hopefully next year, and we might not have a project to spend some of that money on. And I do think that now we have now this isn't sort of a plan I had, but like this is an identified cost, right? So that's something we put on a list, and then we, when we're looking at the end of next year, if the construction's complete and we want to make a decision at that point, I can bring it up again.
I hear you, Ryan. I'd like to make a motion, or I actually ask Amy if she would make a motion to that we agree that we want to put off replacing the sign until the construction is done on Main Street.
My question before that is, how much is the repair going to cost?
Nothing.
Nothing? Because I don't want to spend a ton on repairing it either if it's
Yeah,
not going to.
I hear you. No, John will
But
just,
so,
John would just drive a rod through it. It's not going to look great, but it won't be flapping like it was before.
so John, I'm not committing John to a time frame. He said it's at least a month before he can get out there and do anything. So bear that in mind, because John is very busy. He's trying to outfit public buildings so that they're safe for staff to come back. So that needs to be his priority. And they're making him the sign guy. He's putting signs up in any building that any people are going to be in, and he's got to work on codified colors, so it's a COVID sign. I mean, John has been working, I think, as hard as the rest of us, in just trying to make everything safe and secure as possible for everyone. So I don't want to commit him to a time frame. He said a month from now. I'm even happier if it ends up being longer, because I don't think he knows how it's going to go. And he will, I shouldn't say the cost to the library directly would be nothing for a repair. John would have to expend funds out of his budget, and he would have to assign staff members to try to repair it. So we shouldn't say there's no cost, because there will be a cost to facilities. So just bear that in mind. But facilities is willing to undertake a potential repair if that's what you would like to do. So I mean, he said it's not going to last forever. It sounds like we don't need it to. We would just need it until it gets reevaluated, right? So
Okay. So
the
I
cost, I sorry to cut you off, but just to bear in mind, we'll have to re-quote it out in the future. And the cost of materials for this went up in the 9 years about $1,000. So the sign costs 4,500. It's about 4,000 and then 500 for installation. That's what it costs today. A cost a year from
375.
now might be different, and most likely higher.
Okay.
Okay,
All right, then. So I will motion that we vote to repair the sign and table replacing it at a future time period.
A second. Landry, aye.
Yes, Donnie, aye.
Davis, I.
Regan, I.
Akris, aye.
Mayne, I.
Okay, passes unanimously. All right. Ryan, you're on
Again.
again.
So the last, if you look at the expense report, I know all of you have it memorized, but there is a final ebook bill in there that's italicized. That order has not been placed yet. I did kind of just do some financial projections. About 16% of this year's budget for the materials money, the amount we absolutely have to spend on materials to meet the state requirement, is $86,426.40. So right now, some of our electronic database costs were subtracted from the dues line, because this is the year prior to us putting everything in that new print and electronic subscription line item, which is in next year's budget. So that'll be much easier to track our material purchasing. But out of the dues line, there is a total of $4,249.24 that is applicable for materials expenditures. So what that means is, if you look at the end of the day today, what we've spent on materials prior to me placing any additional ebook orders is $84,104.01. That means we need to spend before the end of the year to meet our requirement $2,322.39. So I do have an ebook order of about, I added a couple items, so I think it's closer to 4,800 now. So that we would meet the requirement and a little bit extra. What I did with my sort of final ebook order was look at what people have on hold locally for Southborough, and this would go to fulfill some of those requests. So that initial order would mean people have been waiting for books, and the average wait time for a Southborough patron for an ebook that's on hold is 30 days. So this would help cut down that time. We've really been driving people to electronic content over the past over 2 months. And, we've been telling people go on overdrive. I've been issuing library cards. We've been trying to help people, on the phone as much as possible, with email as much as possible. So I'd like to use some of the remaining material money to purchase ebooks. I can purchase a little bit less if you guys want it closer to that 2,322 number. I can just fulfill less holds. That's okay. But after this next ebook purchase, I'm not planning to do any additional purchasing at all, with sort of the understanding that the town, the town was concerned about expenditures. They didn't really want people spending on items that weren't COVID related starting in March. But now that the library is kind of coming back, we're going to be providing curbside next week. We're still, at the same time, we're still going to be driving people to ebooks as much as possible. I don't think everybody's going to be comfortable, at least initially, coming to the library. So I think making an investment in our ebooks makes sense at this time.
Could you repeat those numbers for me?
I'm going to write this out, Jane, and I can send it to you. I
It
don't
was
know if that's easier.
$84,104.01. And it was need to spend $2,322.39. And
Yep.
and your actual one, your order was 4,300 and something, Ryan?
It's closer to
4,800.
4,800 now.
4,800.
Yeah,
Okay.
I can give you an exact figure, but
And what was the 84,000? What? read me that one.
$104.01.
so what let's do it like this, and I'll go slow, Jane, I promise. What we need to spend to get 16% is 86,426.10. What we have spent is 84,104.01.
Okay.
So what we need to meet the 16%, right? It's the subtraction of that number from the first, is 2322.39.
Okay.
So Ryan, just for any attendees or anyone watching this, can you just clarify that the 16% we need to spend is a requirement for us to receive state aid and to be a part of the consortium? Or maybe you can explain that better?
Yes, so it's called the materials expenditure requirement. There is a guideline on the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners website. We need to spend that amount of money to maintain our state certification as a public library. So that is what grants us access to the interlibrary loan system, which I know is shut down right now. But when that returns, it means that we can intershare with other libraries. State aid ends up getting calculated by exactly how much items go out. And we're what's called a net lender library. Our collection is desirable. We end up having, instead of being a library that takes more books in to provide to our users, we primarily provide a good number of our own books to our users. And then when that's been satisfied, we send books out for requests. So we do more of that than other libraries our size. And that's what makes us sort of a net lending library. We get cents on the dollar, and that's how state aid is calculated every year. So there's a much more lengthy explanation. That's a very quick cliff notes on state aid.
That's perfect. I just wanted to make it clear for anyone watching as to why we are required to get to the spend level.
So we lose our certification, we automatically don't get any state aid.
We
Just as
obviously
a-
don't want to do that.
No,
right.
good,
Ryan,
good
just
point, Kim. Very
On
good
the, on
point.
the numbers there, I'm looking at the educational supplies tab on your budget. And it says spent to date 84,000, I think it's 616.87.
Yeah, so that in the italicized bill at the bottom,
Right,
it was a pending order. I have not, it's italicized because I haven't actually placed the order yet.
right. I heard you say that, but then that's, is it a problem if we go way over the 86,426.10?
No, we had more budgeted because if you recall, when the town, we were a library with a population of over 10,000 people. So the materials expenditure requirement for a community of under 10,000 was 19%. When it goes, so right, it's 19% if it's under 10,000. If your community goes over 10,000, it goes from you have to spend 19% to you have to spend 16%.
It goes
So
down.
that's a big difference. So we were spending, you know, in previous years, 19% of our budget, and we were pretty much, you know, oftentimes we would spend our book budget and then we would want to spend even more on books, right? Yeah, again, this is what helps us be a net lending library. Our collection is desirable. And then we started things like express book collection. We started having access to more electronic materials. You know, we have been giving the people what they want, right? What has been requested in strategic planning surveys and what people generally are asking for, we're trying to provide.
Where's the additional money come from over the, what we need to spend?
That from the budget, we had budgeted slightly more than was absolutely required.
Yes. And so will we have even more that we're supposed to spend, or you feel like what you have planned to spend puts us right in the range that you want to be in for the end of the fiscal year?
So if we spend this last batch on ebooks, we're good. We could spend additional money on ebooks and I could fulfill more holds. I don't think I would spend the entirety of the remaining amount on electronic material. So some of the material money will go back to the town. You know, I think given this year, I think that is appropriate. This is probably the only year I think I would ever probably be comfortable returning materials money. Typically, there's always material that the library wants.
Right.
And I say library wants, that the library wants to provide its users who are asking for material. You know, we've been closed since March. We're not providing physical materials until Monday.
Right.
So, and even then it's going to be much more limited than if we had been open like normal. So, you know, the staff are going to end up spending a lot in July because they're going to try to look at, you know, Kim, Pat, Leah, they're all creating carts for the period that we were closed. And then they're in addition going to spend on July. So actually, in a way, this is kind of good financially. It means we're spending the most money that I think we're gonna spend on physical materials in July because they have to make up for the months we were closed.
Yes.
So that puts us in a good situation, I think, in July as far as spending, because there's no other month maybe than at the very end that we would spend that much on physical materials, depending on how much we have left. You know, this is not ideal. I don't ever, I think, you know, I normally wouldn't divest, I think, this amount of money into the ebook collection either, just because we tend to have a better response from physical material. But obviously our ebook circulation is up,
Right.
you
No,
know,
I think
fairly
if you're
significantly.
comfortable with
No,
your
it makes
order and
makes sense.
satisfying what people are wanting, then have at it, and let's go ahead and move on. It sounds great.
So my question is, do we need to buy more ebooks?
Do we need to know? Can we? Yes. I would say, if you want me to look at placing this order, and then I could maybe do one more order before the end of the year based on, I would probably do it again based on requests, based on holds. I probably would not spend, I mean, there's still going to be probably thousands of dollars left in materials this year, even if I do that.
So what would, go ahead, Janet, sorry.
So normally you would spend all of your materials money in the course of a year. I mean, you'd want, that's the job.
Yeah.
Are you not doing it this year because the town has asked you to cut back on spending? Or do you not see the need for additional? I mean, I can't imagine that there isn't a constant need for materials.
Correct.
That's true, but I mean, again, we're also closed, and I don't yet have a reopening date. We're going to start doing curbside, but even then, we're not resuming physical purchasing until July, until the new fiscal year. So this is, I've never come to you guys at the end of a fiscal year and been in a situation where we're not physically buying books. So this is a very unique situation. And if you think it's a good idea for us to spend the remainder of our materials money on electronic books, I can do that. That wasn't my plan. My plan was to do one more order. And then, I gave you the specific numbers so that you understood that we're meeting our materials expenditure requirement with the state, that we're very close to meeting that requirement. And one more order puts us over the top, and again, we're going a little bit beyond that in order to fulfill hold requests for people. Not everybody is getting every hold filled, because that would cost a lot more money. I am comfortable with doing one more order to fulfill holds. And I think that's it. That's what I'm advocating. But again, I mean, I'm bringing this up to you. Normally, I wouldn't talk to you about sort of the spending practice in this manner. I think that, again, we're in a very unique year. I think and you do have oversight over the budget at the end of the day. You could tell me not to spend any more money, and then we'd be in danger of not getting our certification. I think I communicated that I don't think that's a good idea, but I do think it's a factor. I think other town departments are going to have to turn back money this year. I think it makes sense for the library too as well. Your comment about being a good citizen is ringing in my ears from the last meeting, Janet. I think I do think it's fiscally responsible for us to meet our materials requirement, look at how we're helping our patrons with getting electronic content, which the next order would do, and then just to wait until July.
So Ryan, here's my question. Assuming that it's fine to do that order of 4,800 approximately, how much goes back to the town from our budget after that?
I think it's about, from the materials line, it's about $7,500. Then there's about 11,000 from salaries, and then there's like a little bit of overage. We might do additional office supply ordering as well to help with the curbside effort. We have placed orders for bags, and we've placed orders for manila envelopes, which the summer reading is going to go in. I have had conversations with the town about that, because we're implementing curbside. We do not buy bags or folders in bulk. We had to in order to provide the curbside. So they were informed of that. They did not have a problem, because again, we're starting up a new operation in order to try to serve the public, and we have the budgeted amounts there. If we need additional items, I try to wait till July. But again, our budget was kind of based on a normal year. We're not looking to.
So I guess my question for you is, I'm weighing, are there residents in town who are waiting 30 days for an ebook or for a book when they could have it as an ebook, versus what are we turning back to the town? Is there a happy arrangement here where patrons don't have to wait for a book, and we're still also doing the right thing in terms of, we're turning back 11,000 in salaries. If we buy no more ebooks, a few office supplies, how much goes back in total?
You mean no more than what he recommended, or no
Correct.
more?
Correct.
I mean, it's about the 7,500 plus the 11,000 for the salaries. I mean, that's the number we're looking at.
So it's about
Again, you
18.
can, if I don't, this isn't really a formal vote either. I'm really just, I'm getting your feedback at the end of the day. And you do, I mean, a trustee does sign off on the expenditure here.
Right.
I don't feel like it's appropriate for me to spend the money and not have a conversation with you.
All
You
right.
know, my intention is to spend at least $2,322.39 to meet the materials expenditure requirement. I'd like to spend a little bit more on that to fulfill holds. And then, you know, Marguerite, I think we could divest the remainder of the materials budget into overdrive ebook purchasing and still not get every hold fulfilled. You know, we could definitely get people closer, but then, you know, books are popular for a finite amount of time, typically when they're new. So what happens is we end up purchasing books to fulfill hold requests now, and then there's going to be a bunch of copies of the book. So, I mean, these are books that we might suggest to book clubs if they're going to use ebooks in the future, because we'll kind of have, I mean, just that order, just to give you an idea, fulfills the top 20 requested items. So ebooks are not inexpensive. They tend to be more money than physical books.
All right.
So
So
And
Ryan,
just-
are there additional, you know, actual in-hand books that you'd like to grow the collection with? And I would recommend that you do whatever's on the sort of current wish list with things for the library patrons, whether it's a series of books or this or that, in addition to all the supplies you anticipate needing to launch this summer project. I think with curbside pickup, you're gonna have a greater demand for in-hand books because people are tired of reading stuff online. They're tired of being on the computer. So maybe some actual books would be great in addition to the ebook thing. And I certainly wouldn't want you to realize, oh my gosh, we have no Sharpie markers to write on our, you know, curbside pickup stuff, or, you know, anticipate all the things you might need for the next month or two, pay it out of this year's materials budget because we have it, even if you stockpile a little bit, and then whatever you feel comfortable with after that, that goes back to the town, so be it. But certainly don't shortchange in any way what you're providing. That, at least that's my thought about it.
Well, my question too was when you said you weren't buying any physical things until July, what is your thinking behind that?
So typically we cease physical purchasing at a time in June. We're very close to it right now, so that we can get all the year-end bills, so we can pay everything. So we usually buy a little bit of June books starting in July, so we can get final invoices, we can close out the remainder of the year. So what would have happened was, and again, the town has given us feedback that really the COVID related spending, you know, facilities, I think the technology budget, there's a couple, I think police and fire, there's a couple departments that are spending more because they're emergency services during this time. So I don't have the exact figures, but that they were asked sort of for other town departments to help. And that was really, I think, where that was when we stopped doing physical book purchasing, that was a factor, but also the fact that the staff weren't coming into the building and that there was nobody here to receive packages and there was nobody here to actually work and put the carts together and place the orders. So, you know, Kim is very ready to start physical book purchasing again. Pat is very ready, but I think that all of that I just said is why July, it makes much more sense as when we should start doing the physical book purchasing again. We also kind of need to look at curbside and then see how that's going to be integrated into the operation, because then I'm going to have staff who are working to place orders, staff who are working to process books. So we're trying to sort of delineate a workflow. The part-time staff are going to come back and start helping in July in a very limited way. And primarily, I want them helping Kim with summer reading efforts and with curbside downstairs. So that's sort of the primary function for having part-time staff starting to come back. There's a lot we have to do, I think, in the next couple weeks. And that's why waiting until July is my intention. at the moment. You might disagree, but that's where, I think that's where we need to go, is at that point. You know, if you want to compel me, you want to say spend money on physical material now, that creates, I think, a problem in trying to get the final bills for the end of the year and then close out the year, because that's not typically what we do for year end. It's like the end of the last full week of June is usually what I look as a cutoff date, and then we stop doing physical ordering then. And then items that are back ordered, you know, we have to cancel all those. It ends up being sort of a lot of work in June as we close it. We shut everything down to restart in July. It's just the timing, I think.
Okay, so my question is, do we need to vote, all right, to approve the $2,322.39 and the ebook purchase that you've already formulated?
I don't
No.
think we do.
No, I don't
Okay,
think
so
we do.
go for it. So
No.
are we good on this? Are we ready to move on to?
Marguerite, can I just say
Sure,
something about
great.
that? So,
Yes, please.
Brian, I think it's obvious that we are all in support of spending the 16% that we need to keep that state certification. I mean, I personally don't think you need to nickel and dime it to get it to that exact amount, but it sounds like you have a good sense of what's in demand right now that you could, you know, purchase to satisfy people with some more ebooks. I would just say, you know, if we were looking to spend, like, I think it would be great if we could get more physical books, but nobody's looking to put more work onto you right now. So I'm fine waiting for physical books until the new fiscal year. But for the ebooks, and you probably already thought about this, but is there spending we could do there to support like the school summer reading programs, or also how people's book lists might have changed due to current events? Like there are just certain titles that everyone is looking for right now. Are there ways we could satisfy that with the ebook spending in this fiscal year? So those were my only comments.
That's a good point, Kim. And I would just say, I would really like to reach out to the staff, because I fulfilled some of the last sort of the big ebook order I just did, because I did do one before we got started, because there was a big chasm, I think, in the material spending. We needed to I needed to be in a better state before coming to you guys today. So last week I did one, and we tried to fulfill some of the readers advisory requests, and then also stuff people had specifically asked for in the survey. But one thing I didn't ask was the staff if there was anything that they think they should purchase. And then I just got the Algonquin summer reading list today, so that was also something we didn't have access to previously. And I have not checked with Kim to see what the summer reading lists, if the schools have forwarded her those lists. Usually we kind of have to hunt them down a little bit. So I know you have school age kids, you know, if Woodward and Finn or Neary have put out lists and you guys have them, definitely send those over to Kim and I. You know, again, we like to purchase physical books. We probably will do that again in July to augment the collection for summer reading titles there now. But if people want to get started, and ebooks are what we can do, you know, I'd like to do another potential order. I don't think it would be, I'm just saying, we're not going to end up spending all money budgeted on materials before the end of the year. There's no way we can do that now, given the fact that we were essentially shut down from March now. Even though we were coming in, even though we were working on projects, we weren't doing sort of the book operation the same way.
But I second Kim's idea of if there are other places where there can be purchases, I totally support that. The school reading list, for instance.
And by the way, Trotter isn't doing a reading list. They're giving articles this year. They're not, because they don't think people can get books. So
Yeah, I think Neary is doing the same thing. So I wasn't sure what Algonquin was doing.
I can send you the list. I have the list now.
Okay.
They sent it to me about, I
Can
think,
you
an
send
hour
it to
before
all
the
of us?
meeting started. Yeah,
Could
I'll
you
send it to everybody. Yeah. Because we
Okay.
also have to see what on their list is even available as an ebook purchase, right? It might not be
Right.
everything. So not every book that we could even get physically, we can get as an ebook.
Right.
And then the access to Hoopla helps to augment, because Hoopla has access to some things that Overdrive doesn't. And Overdrive, we pay per checkout, we don't pay per title. So it's like our ebook platforms are set up all differently. And then it was very awesome that we had prepaid that hoopla amount, because we've only spent about $1,000. And really, this was a great opportunity for us to communicate what hoopla was, and then to start helping patrons with it during this time. That was something we just didn't have time to put together, was sort of a marketing campaign for it. It happened by default when the library shut down, right? And now I get so much feedback from users who do use hoopla, who like it. You know, the staff and I think get frustrated sometimes with the searching interface, because it's very different than Overdrive. But you know, there's different materials that we've provided. We're providing access to Freegal again. You know, that was something that happened out of the pandemic too. So I mean, I would never, I think in a normal year, I try to do like a little bit of electronic purchasing to help augment electronic collections. We did a lot more of it at the end of the day this year, and that made sense because the building wasn't open. So.
Okay, so do we feel we've clarified our position on Ryan's spending for materials at this point, or do we need to discuss it further? All right. Okay,
So
Ryan?
I will do an additional ebook purchase, and then I will check with the staff, and I will look at the Algonquin and any other summer reading lists, and then I will proceed with a final order after that.
Okay, that sounds great. Shall we move on to curbside pickup and delivery?
Sure. Do you guys have another hour, I guess is the real question.
Oh, good, right. Okay.
There will be some, the document I sent out to you was in draft form, the second page of the director's report. So that really is sort of a rough plan. One of the things that I can tell you, and for anybody who's watching, is I feel bad for anybody who has to watch this, but I'm going to do a video tutorial of me being recorded that informs people of how to search for local items in the catalog. And it will give sort of a rundown of, just because an item is listed as available in the catalog doesn't necessarily mean that it will be available for curbside pickup. If the two people want the same book at the same time, and one person calls and one person emails, it's going to end up going to the person who calls, because they've got us on the phone and we're responding to that phone call first. So there's sort of a lot of things I think we need to work out. We also need to gauge from next week how popular the service is. You know, if a lot of people are calling us, we're going to have to make, I think, some pivots on how many staff are helping to contribute. You know, when it starts on Monday, I'm going to be answering the phone, Carol is going to be answering the phone, and then Leah's going to try to place the orders, like sort of package the orders and put them together and search for books. I think I'm going ahead a little bit, so I'm sorry.
Do you want to play the video? Do you want to do the video?
I don't have the video recorded
Oh,
yet.
okay.
I'm hoping to put it together this weekend.
All
So.
right.
I think you just secured people will call in rather than email. If you're telling them you'll get the book first. But
We would prefer people to call, because that's much easier to coordinate, but there will be an option to email an order in. We're also trying to work with the consortium on pending holds that had been placed. The CW Mars catalog is not really designed for library specific holds. It's designed for over 130 libraries. So I am going to sort of point out, single out Leah. Leah has done significant work in working with the consortium this week. There's a guy named John Admondson, who's sort of the tech person over at CW Mars. We've jury-rigged the team computer to print like a Southborough list. The only problem is it's not printing all the information we need. So we're still kind of working with CW Mars on refining that a little bit. And again, there's going to be specified times that we're sort of tackling catalog requested items, right? So I mean, we've never had the situation where we've been limited for physical items to just our building. The bad news is I have no information on when delivery is going to restart. As of today, they went to the 20 most high volume libraries to do bin pickups. There was no communication about what's happening after that. I don't think they actually know. We have about 30 outgoing bins, I think, which is significantly more than normal.
Yeah.
And we are waiting, we've run out, we're on our last bin right now. We're waiting, I have a request in to the Mass Library System who communicated to Optima, and we're on a pickup list. I haven't gotten a date. I haven't gotten any information about when they would come and when they would do this pickup, and when we can even just start getting our library materials that are out to other locations back over to us. There's been things that have been stuck sort of in transit limbo since March. So, you know, again, the phone is the easiest way for us to communicate to patrons what is here. We also want to try to develop an option where if a patron just wants to call and they want the staff to recommend titles, or they want us to put together an order for them, we're happy to do that and try to figure out the best way to make that happen. Maybe you just want us to put together like 3 or 4 movies. You know, that's something that we can try to do. So basically people are going to call us Monday.
Ryan, I think the
Where-
phone's going to be ringing off the hook.
I do too.
I think
you know,
people are going to get frustrated because they're going to call and it's going to be busy, 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 busy in that sense. So question for you, I just logged on to see, you know, what's available at the library. So if you're saying that a book, you know, 0 of 1 copy is available at Southborough Public Library, you're not having people put that copy on hold, thing like that. You are only going to circulate what is physically on site.
people can still place holds because the delivery system is suspended. I have no information about when you place a computer hold, when it will be fulfilled. If it says 1 of 1, it means we have 1 copy of an item.
Right.
And you can, I still say, if we're open and I have staff here, the best way to go about securing that item is to call us. I know some people prefer not to call. That's fine. There's going to be, I have a dedicated CW Mars email address that is going to be available for people to email us and to place an order. The thing that's going to happen is that people aren't going to check the catalog prior to placing orders. We will communicate this to them. We will ask them to do this. The bulk of our calls will be people who heard about a book. This is what happens in normal circumstances. People hear about a book, they call us, do you have that book? So we will have to tell them, we have to call you back, we're going to check, and then we're going to see if we can package this as a curbside pickup order. You know, we'll call you back as soon as we can. You are right, the phone might be ringing off the hook. We had 272 respondents to the Pandemic Services Survey. Our most successful, by the way, online survey ever. About 88% said that they would be interested in curbside. I had a comment section, and I've also talked with a number of people who've told me they filled out the survey. I think people like the idea that we're doing curbside. One of the feedback pieces I've kind of received is that, yes, there's definitely people who will take advantage of it. But there's also, I think, a certain number of people who are a little bit more cautious. And I think they want to see how it goes in the first couple of weeks. And there's also older residents who have communicated that they're not comfortable coming here at all or getting library materials at this time. And I think that there still needs to be more information and, you know, coordination with the Board of Health and with the emergency management group in town as we sort of refine and develop the service. So I had a site visit with the new public health nurse, Emily Emiko, on Monday. She did a tour of the facility and we talked for about an hour. And a lot of that was about the curbside service. And then I had a similar site visit and meeting with Chief Achilles, he's the fire chief, but he heads up our emergency management. They both think that we're going to do a table outside the library. And when we package orders, we're doing all the packaging inside. We're going to write people's names and we're going to write their pickup time and date, if applicable, and we're going to place it on the table. The items are going to be far enough apart that people do not need to touch other items other than their own, but it's going to be a pickup table. We're not bringing items to people. We don't want to put staff in that position. And it's going to be so that people can be distanced enough that they don't, you know, they can still be 6 feet apart. And there's going to be a staff member, it's going to be Kim and I a lot at the beginning, who are monitoring the table. Kim, I think, thinks we can maybe eyeball it from the children's room. You know, I think we want to be outside and interfacing with the public and getting some feedback when we first start this out. You know, it's applicable for, I know Rec is looking at maybe having some staff members come out and help out, especially for summer reading. We weren't able to get sort of prizes for kids. We usually do that and have a weekly raffle. Recreation has offered to give us some of their incentive prizes for camps and make those available as part of the summer reading initiative. So because the library in a way is moving outside, we're really looking at sort of, you know, I think a concrete partnership as we sort of develop and make curbside service available. But we need to see how popular it's going to be, and we need to see what the divestment of staff needs to be. This is really my priority next week. I'm going to make myself very available for patrons and for the staff as we get started with this. And if it's popular, that is probably something that's going to continue.
Sounds good.
I have a comment or a question. I do know other libraries have already started doing this, and they don't use the bags because it's one more element that can be contagious or to hold bacteria, whatever. They just put the books there with the name. Just thought.
I mean, I can tell you that I reviewed, we're using paper bags. That was why we had to do a purchase. So, you know, the current science points to the fact that paper bags are safer than plastic bags as far as the virus living on it. So,
I'm
you know,
saying
I
no
think it
bag.
was
I'm saying no bag.
no bag, I know, but it's easier for us to write on those and then sort of package them outside. I mean, that was sort of the methodology. I mean, if people hate the bags or people are concerned about the bags, you know, that is helpful feedback, I think, when we get started. I'd like starting next week to bag them. And that we've been doing that. We did kind of a soft launch starting late last week. We contacted people who had physical holds still on the shelf from March, and we asked them if they wanted to pick their books up. And then in the beginning of this week, there were some books that were part of a youth and family virtual presentation, and people were supposed to get a book. This was all set up, I think, prior to the pandemic, right? So we had people come and pick up their free youth and family service book. And a lot of people, you know, told us they liked that it was pre-bagged. So that was a small number of people. I think we maybe interacted with about 15. But if I'm getting additional feedback that people are concerned about the bag, I mean, it's, the other thing is if it starts raining or something, you know, we're
No,
gonna.
I didn't mean to throw a monkey wrench in. I just thought I would mention it. So
No,
fine.
it's good to know, Jane, but we've also talked about if it rains or if there's some sort of weather condition, people can still call us and place orders or email me and place an order, but setting up a table outside really doesn't work. And we've looked at a number of options where we would have like a tent outside. Would we do a temporary tent? Would we do a permanent tent? And really what we ultimately decided is we're going to have to be moving materials back and forth, and a bag would help, but water and books, as many people in this group know, do not mix. So, you know, we really wanted to try to avoid that. I think when it's raining, we will not be having the service available for pickup. We just look at having it be the next day. We're fingers crossed. We're really hoping we don't get like 2 or 3 rainy days in a row, because that would really be sort of problematic. But, you know, I think Kim even said if there's a little bit of light sprinkling, that's not as bad as it like a full downpour, you know? So we just have to sort of gauge, I think, how bad it is. And we'll be looking at the weather forecast, I think, a lot more than normal. So.
Noted. Yeah, I'm sure you will. Okay.
We also want to communicate as part of the, so we're going to be putting out information on Monday to let people know it's available. We want to outline our procedure for quarantining books. So when books, we only are emptying the book drop right now on Monday and Thursday mornings. I don't think the dog liked that.
She heard
So-
something about it.
So Kim has been primarily the one doing it. I told Kim that if she ever wants a break or wants me to do it, I'm happy to be her backup. But she wears gloves and a mask. We're using the Eaton room to quarantine the books. So there's a 72-hour period where the book drops get emptied, they get placed in the Eaton room, and then they don't even immediately get checked in. So people who put things in the book drop, right? It's going to get emptied, and then it's going to be 3 days after we empty it that's going to be checked in. So for some people it's 6 or 7 days or from returning to getting it checked in. So we're letting people know that is that yes, your book was returned. We're we have a quarantine procedure for the books, and it will get checked off your account eventually. Call back next week and we'll verify. We're only using book drops right now as the return receptacle so that we can sort of control returns. That means that when curbside starts, we cannot sort of initially circulate any items that don't really fit in the book drop. So that means no telescopes, at least at first, and definitely no puzzles, because we don't want the puzzles to come apart in the book drop. That's going to
You
be
don't
kind
wanna
of
do puzzles.
potentially a nightmare. So there's a couple where I'm talking a lot with other area libraries, and you're right, Jane. Some people did start it in advance, maybe too soon. We are really coordinating with Westboro and Marlboro in particular. I'm in communication with their directors a lot. Westboro is resuming their curbside, and then Marlboro is doing the same thing we did with the holds pickup starting on the 8th. So the 8th is kind of a big day for area libraries. That's when a lot of people are going to start having some form of this. Some people did it in advance. Some people are even waiting until the week after. So it varies. There was no unified launch date for it. I think it really depended on who was available when. And then at least initially, I was looking at maybe a July for curbside. So we've really had to kind of ramp up the time frame for all this. And I'm glad. I think Kim would tell you this too. Kim Ivers is we were outside and we were giving books to people, right? Just in a limited way over the past week. But it made me feel really great, in that we were providing books to the public. And I think that that is something we want to try to continue. We want to try to make happen as much as we can moving forward.
Sounds good. Your flexibility, the whole organization has been immensely flexible through this, I gotta say. It's really great. May not seem that way to you, but it looks that way from the outside.
It does. You've done a good job. Really good job.
But to Jane's point, I think if the first couple weeks of this, prior to the launch of summer reading, we really are looking for additional feedback. And I am going to really want people to get in touch with me, or at least tell me if they come and pick up books, or if they're comfortable, they can call, they can email me and tell me how the library can serve them during this time. What are sort of their expectations for curbside service? This is not something we ever kind of planned on doing, and we're going to do the best we can, at least initially. But we can set up criteria and we can set up 6 feet apart blocks. I think we're going to do that initially on Monday so that people aren't standing too close together. If they're going to wait their turn to come and pick up, the chief doesn't know if that's absolutely necessary, because we are going to kind of make it with pickup times that, we're going to have like hour-long blocks. We're going to kind of cap it at around 10 people. If somebody says, I really want to come and pick up my books, I'm really going to kind of come at this time, we might be able to set up multiple tables potentially. So, an hour, 10 people is kind of the target. If we start getting 20, 30, 40 people in an hour, I don't think that that is feasible. We're going to have to modify pickup times depending on demand. So, like you said, the phone might be ringing off the hook. Will everybody who's calling us who wants to place an order be able to? They might be calling about books that we just don't have that are available. And, honestly, the call might be that you know, we can place this on hold through the computer. I have no idea when you're going to get the item. Maybe people will be satisfied with that. Maybe they won't. You know, we've never been limited just to what we have in the building before. But I do think people are going to take advantage of this, in particular children and parents of children who want books for their kids, because school is ending and people haven't been able to get books for a long time. And we have a lot of children's books, I think, that people will want.
Good. Okay, so any other items that we need to discuss today?
We just from the survey data, we will not be doing home delivery at this
Okay.
time.
That's good. All right.
So I know that that was sort of on the agenda because we were talking about both. The number one response, it was about 49%, was no. And then yes was actually, I think, the least people responded.
Yeah.
So
Not surprised. Yeah.
I was a little, I thought if people, you know, if we're going to give the option to drive to people's houses, but I guess people are not comfortable with that. So,
yeah, right.
you know, curbside is going to be the focus because we got a lot of a higher percentage of people who said that that's what they're comfortable with. That's
Right.
what they'd like us to pursue.
So I look forward at our next meeting to hearing how curbside worked out. You can fill us in. It should be interesting.
You know, I hope if it's applicable and if this group feels comfortable that this is a service you might want to take advantage of. You know, you can wait a couple days or you can wait until after the next meeting. But you know, I'm hoping that I can communicate how it's going and we can go from there. You know, we might have to make some changes based on the feedback that we received from the public.
That's great. That's really good, Ryan. Thank you. Please communicate to the staff. I think I can speak on behalf of the board that we really appreciate their flexibility right now. It's,
I want to note, we've got Kim Ivers, who's supposed to be looking at taking the lead on children's curbside and also redesigning her entire summer reading effort. And Kim, you know, I think Kim would tell you she's not somebody who necessarily likes to do a lot of brand new things when it's trendy and she has shown tremendous flexibility. She has shown incredible creativity, in particular in redefining the summer reading program. You know, she was like, let's get an area on the website, let's put this up. And, you know, like that's something that I can help her with. And we've just been working, you know, I think we're a great team right now as we're trying to do this. And this was not the plan for summer reading. Kim had, I think, 95% of her programming block completed in January. Like she plans out that early, and she had to contact all the vendors. She's still going to try to provide programs, you know, in a very different way. But I want to say it's not just her. I'm happy with all of the full-time staff that have been coming in. I've met with a number of the part-time staff who are all ready to come back. You know, it's just, it's been a stressful time for the library, but it just, we have such a great team and we're such a great place. And I think that is our biggest strength going into this sort of uncertain time.
Excellent. All right, now, do we have any, so pass along our thanks, Ryan, if you would. That'd be the least we could do at this point. Are there any other things that you need us to talk about today, Ryan?
I don't think so. That was everything on the agenda.
Any other board members, anything they want to bring up to talk about? Are we good to adjourn? Next meeting date. I
know it's late, but I do want to acknowledge that this might be the last trustee meeting for Amy Vacris, who is not running for re-election. So we know that we're going to gain a great trustee in Mr. Eckberg coming on board, but we're also losing a great trustee too. So I wanted to take a few moments. You know, Amy wasn't just somebody who helped in the children's room, and the downstairs had a devastating flood. She was also somebody who helped volunteer and sort of mobilize our volunteer force during some of that effort. And you know, that is one example of sort of some of the great things that Amy has provided and brought to the library over the last several years. So I just wanted to say thank you, and you will be missed.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, it's been wonderful having you on the board, Amy. And I'm sorry life's taking everyone in different directions, but
Especially this year, right?
oh, please, I know. Anyway, so it's been wonderful getting to know you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure for sure.
There you
Won't be
go.
on for too long. You'll all see me around for
There
sure.
you are. There you are. So good. Anyway, so shall we just set a date for our next meeting? Or do you want to wait and play it by ear?
How would you guys feel about a Friday again?
It works for me.
That's fine.
1, 2, 3. So do you want to go out for the 3rd of, no, that's the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea.
That's probably, oh no, we're so dedicated. We would even do it on the 4th of July. How about the weekend after that, the 10th? 10th of July? That's a Friday?
Mhm.
Do we want to go back to midweek? Like, does anyone have summer plans that they know of?
No, I have a chunk of Zooms in the middle of the week, but that's okay. We can move it to, the middle.
No, it doesn't really matter to me. I guess we're also beholden to the Zoom schedule.
I think, well, the early afternoon, I can share with you, is typically a good time. But I do, sometimes scheduling the next meeting can be difficult for you guys, just because not everybody knows, you know, what life is like and what schedules are like. I know that at least school for the moms in the crowd is less of a problem in July, right? So I'm happy to work midweek. I don't know what the board and committee schedule on Zoom is going to look like. I just know that Tom did, you know, send out a message saying Fridays, people tend not to book meetings on Friday, and Friday is typically a safe bet for anybody who's available. But if midweek is something you guys want me to explore, it just depends on if there's another meeting. We would have to look at a different meeting date.
Okay, Tuesday and Wednesday are out for me during the week, so.
Is the Zoom schedule more open like early afternoon? Is that something we could look at, or?
Yeah, the evenings and sometimes the early mornings tend to be when board committees. So even 4 o'clock is a pretty good time, but earlier, like around lunch, 1 or 2, there tends not to be a lot of public meeting. I think the only one who's sort of been the exception of that so far has been personnel board. They've met at noon twice on a Wednesday. So.
Well, we could do closer to lunchtime. I mean, like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, if that works for people.
2 works for me at most days.
All right, okay.
Why don't you want me to send out like a doodle, or I could shoot a couple dates? Does that work?
Yeah, that's fine.
That's perfect. Thank you. That'll be good. Okay, Amy, you want to move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second. Goodbye, Amy.
Oh,
We'll miss you.
I know.
We all have to say
Do we have to
that,
vote? Okay, Landry,
Amy, it's your last vote.
Yep.
Oh.
Going.
Agris, aye.
Regan, I.
Yes, Donnie. Aye.
Davis, aye.
Mamie, aye.
All right. Goodbye, everyone.
Okay.
Bye.
See you in a bit. Stay safe.